In 1975, a guy had the genius idea to sell rocks. Not rare rocks, not special rocks, just rocks. 6 months later, he was a millionaire. This is the story of the pet rock. And honestly, it might be the dumbest way anyone has ever made millions. Let's get into it. To understand why this worked, you have to understand 1975 America. The Vietnam War had just ended. The economy was a mess. Inflation was brutal. Gas prices had doubled overnight. People were exhausted, cynical, and desperately looking for something to laugh at. The country needed a joke. Gary Dahl was about to give them one. Gary wasn't a genius inventor, not a tech billionaire, not some visionary with an MBA. He was an advertising copywriter from California, a guy who spent his career figuring out how to make people want things they didn't need. And he was very, very good at it. In the summer of 1975, Gary was sitting in a bar in Los Gatos, California, listening to his friends complain about their pets, dogs chewing furniture, cats knocking things off shelves, fish just existing. Someone complained about vet bills. Someone else complained about training. Someone said their dog had destroyed an entire couch. And Gary sat there quietly and had a thought. What if the perfect pet required absolutely nothing from you? No feeding, no training, no vet bills, no mess, no drama. What if the perfect pet was a rock? Now, a normal person hears that and laughs. Gary Dahl went home and started writing a business plan. Here's what Gary actually sold. A rock, specifically a smooth gray Rosarita beach stone from Baja California, Mexico. Cost to source, about 1 cent. He put it in a cardboard box designed to look like a pet carrier, complete with air holes punched in the sides. He packed it with straw for bedding. And then, this is the part that actually made the whole thing work. He wrote a manual, a 32-page training manual called, and I'm not making this up, The Care and Training of Your Pet Rock. Now, let's talk about this manual for a second. Because this wasn't just a gimmick. Gary actually wrote something genuinely funny. The manual opened by welcoming you to the rewarding world of pet ownership and immediately pointing out that your new pet was already cleaner, better behaved, and cheaper than anything your neighbor owned. It then walked you through basic commands. Sit. Your rock would do this immediately and perfectly every single time. Gary called this an excellent foundation for your relationship. Stay. Also, flawless. Gary noted that your rock's commitment to staying was, quote, unmatched in the animal kingdom. Come. This one required some setup. You had to place the rock on a slight incline. Gary acknowledged this was a mild inconvenience, but assured you the payoff was worth it. Roll over. Gary admitted this one may require a gentle push. Play dead, immediate, perfect, every time. Gary described this as your rock's most natural and impressive skill. The manual also covered what to do if your rock became aggressive. The answer was that you were overreacting. It's a rock. There was an entire section on how to teach your rock to attack on command. The instructions were, throw it. And somehow, this worked. Because here's what Gary understood that nobody else did. The manual was the product. The rock was just the packaging. He priced the whole thing at $3.95. Total cost to produce, about 36 cents. That's a markup of over 1,000% for a rock. Gary didn't have a warehouse, no investors, no marketing budget. His first move was getting the pet rock into the Neiman Marcus catalog. Neiman Marcus, one of the most prestigious luxury retailers in America. Because Gary understood something about human psychology, if a luxury store sells it, it must be legitimate. Even if it's a rock. They ordered 500 units. Gary sold every single one. Then Newsweek ran a story on it. Then every newspaper in America ran a story on it. Then TV shows started covering it, because the pet rock had something most products never get. It was a joke people wanted to be in on. Buying one wasn't stupid. It was ironic. It was self-aware. It was a gag gift, something you bought for your friend as a joke, and then your friend bought one for someone else, and then that person bought 3 for the office. Gary Dahl had invented the viral product before the internet existed. By Christmas 1975, he was selling 100,000 pet rocks a week. A week. Toy stores couldn't keep them on shelves. Department stores were ordering thousands at a time. Parents were stuffing them in stockings. Offices were buying them as white elephant gifts. The entire country lost its mind over a rock in a box. Let's talk about how the money actually worked. Gary sold approximately 1.5 million pet rocks in a 6-month window at $3.95 retail, with a production cost of 36 cents per unit. His profit margin was over 90%, 1.5 million units, times $3.59 profit each. That's roughly $5.4 million in profit in 6 months, in 1975 dollars, which is the equivalent of over $30 million today. $30 million from something you could pick up off the ground. Gary Dahl became a millionaire before New Year's 1976. He went on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. He did press tours. He was on the front page of newspapers across the country. He was briefly, and I mean briefly, one of the most famous people in America because he sold rocks. Now here's where the story gets a little more complicated. Because when 1.5 million people buy something for $3.95, other people notice. Within weeks of the pet rock exploding, knockoffs started flooding the market. Pet sticks, just a stick in a box with a manual. Pet gravel, a handful of small rocks, slightly cheaper, somehow worse. Pet dirt, exactly what it sounds like. Someone actually sold bagged dirt with a training manual and made money doing it. There were pet boulders, pet sand. Someone even tried pet air, literally an empty box with a manual about caring for your invisible pet. Gary Dahl had accidentally created an entire category of absolutely ridiculous products. And while the copycats were flooding in, Gary was already seeing the writing on the wall. Because here's the fatal flaw in the pet rock business model. It had a shelf life of exactly 1 Christmas. By early 1976, the joke was over. Everyone who wanted one had one. You can't sell someone the same gag twice. The magic only works the first time. The knockoffs had diluted the market. The news coverage had died down. The novelty was gone. Gary tried to follow it up. He launched sand breeding kits, 2 rocks, some sand, and a manual explaining how to breed your rocks together to make more rocks. They did not become a $15 million phenomenon. He tried a few other novelty products over the years. None of them came close. He spent the rest of his career back in advertising, successful, respected, but never recreating that one insane 6-month window. Gary Dahl died in 2015. He was 78 years old. And here's the thing about Gary Dahl that most people miss when they hear this story. He wasn't lucky. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't a one-hit wonder who got lucky with a joke. He was a guy who understood human psychology better than almost anyone around him. He understood that in 1975, when everything felt heavy and serious and expensive, people were desperate to laugh at something. And he gave them a way to do it and charged them $3.95 for the privilege. The best products don't solve a problem. They create a feeling. Nobody needed a pet rock. Nobody's life was better because of one. But for 1 Christmas in 1975, millions of people felt like they were in on the joke. That feeling was worth $3.95. And Gary Dahl understood that before almost anyone else did. One guy, one bar conversation, one absurd idea, and millions of people paying for a joke. they didn't even realize they were part of. That's how accidental millions actually works. If you want to see who's next, the subscribe button's right there because we're just getting started.